Hello everyone, welcome to Game Brigade. My name is Brian, and today we're going to be diving into Once Upon a Line by Peter and Fracas, being published by Lucky Duck Games. If you're looking for more information regarding this Kickstarter, well, you have come to the right place, as I'm going to give you all the details about my opinion about this game with everything I have played up to this point. So stay tuned for that. All right, guys, so we're going to be diving into Once Upon a Line, but before we do that, I want to say thank you to our channel sponsor, Intotheam AM. They are actually going to be doing a $20 gift card for my channel this month. We'll have more information about that in an upcoming short, so make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for those shorts for a chance to win that $20 gift card. And if you want to support the channel, check out Intotheam AM. They have a whole bunch of different deals and bundles going on where you can purchase different types of graphic tees for different types of bundles. And with my code BOARDGAME, you save an additional 10% off site-wide on top of any existing sales they already have. So let's talk about Once Upon a Line. This game sets in a dystopian future very akin to teen novels like Divergent, where you are going to be taking the role of a different character as you dive in through this story-based word search game. This is a very different experience from any type of board game I have ever played, and it definitely was different for me when I dove into it. So I'm going to explain the mechanics as how this game works, kind of the reasonings of what you're trying to do, and then we'll dive into what I liked and didn't like in terms of my overall experience. So what are you doing in Once Upon a Line? Well, you are going to be going through a different narrative story set in this world that is very rich, very real, really well done in terms of the overall world building. Effectively, the world has the human race is no longer the dominant species. We've had a major cataclysmic event occurred, and insects, because there are no more large mammals existing on the planet, have evolved in a way that they are now the dominant species. So there are massive moths, massive spiders, just gigantic bugs everywhere. And humans have holed up in this kind of secluded city, and they kind of use the insects as different ways to build their society. They have different types of roles that they use them for. And I say Divergent at the beginning of this video because there are different types of caste systems within this world where each one has a different society, role, and job, and they're all based on different types of insects. Like the military people are part of the ant caste, I guess you would say. So I thought that was very interesting, very well world building storyline going on, and you do get a touch of that within this prologue and tutorial that I have played, which is cool. But how does the game play? Obviously, that's why we're here. That's what we want to find out. I have a full completed section down here. They gave me two options. They probably gave me one so I can show you guys in the video. So unfortunately, I scratched off a little bit of it, so you'll have to deal with me for a second. But here we have, this is the tutorial. I believe they said it's okay for us to show you what's on the tutorial. But here we have the board, and it'll tell you when you are starting a game. You flip it over. It'll tell you what heroes are available for you to play. So in this situation, it's Ira. And it tells you what cards you're going to start with. In this case, A002, A004, which I already have right here pulled out. And then at the very bottom, it says your main quest is get to the city as quickly as possible. Turn over the board and scratch off any of the play button squares without using any action tiles. And we'll talk about those action tiles here shortly. And to give you an idea of kind of what the narrative sounds like as you're reading this story, I will go ahead and read a little bit of this flavor text for you. The month of August is full of swing. The honey harvest has already begun. Ira is very proud of her bees, and they have been very prolific. Just like every week, the young swarm keeper has to go to the city of Kell to deliver her honey samples to the analysis laboratory. But today, Ira is lagging behind, and the evening is fast approaching. Servan, who was supposed to take over the shelter, has not yet returned. The journey becomes more and more perilous with each passing minute. With nightfall comes many terrifying nocturnal insects. So that begins our quest. So we are told to scratch off the middle here with the play button signs. So I've already started scratching off, as you can see. we'll go ahead and scratch off the rest of this and reveal what the hidden word that we are going to start off with is. And in this situation, it is dwellings. Now, this game, there are a few rules, and this is pretty much how you're going to play. There are different markers and different iconography on the letters that you're going to use when you make your deductions. So in this situation, we have two horizontal and vertical lines over the D or E. These indicate that they are the beginning or the end of a word. If a word does not have two lines, it is not quite been fully revealed. So the final G here also reveals that dwelling here is the final word, and it matches the title card of the card. The card that we have flipped over here, this storyline, this is what when you reveal a word, you come into this board, this cart of different types of available cards that are going to be part of this scenario, and you find the first three letters that match with the revealed word, in this case DWE for dwelling, and you flip it over and you read the flavor text. Night will soon fall in the valley of sequoias. You slip on your flight suit and you're ready to go. As you pass through the door, you whistle for Hexa, your pet honeybee. The rascal is nowhere to be seen. Her behavior has been a bit strange recently, and she's begun wandering farther and farther from home. It's very likely that she's wandered off again, perhaps hiding in a wild colony, or maybe she's dozed off in a secret cache. So your goal now is to find either, well, technically both, but we're looking for both colony and cache. We know we have two letters that we can build off of, or we have one letter that we can build off of, and that's that E. The E is telling us I am the end of a word. So we want to take an action here to go ahead and uncover these four letters. So how does the actions work? What are we doing? Well, in this game, you start off with 4 actions, and you're going to be using these lines that are set in this little board here as your action meters. So I can go ahead and take a 4 piece. You mark, you're supposed to mark, I didn't really do this when we played, but you mark kind of where you're going to be putting it. And that tells you that you're going to be doing that line there. And you put it in the first box here, indicating that's your first action. So then I would go ahead and mark down on this. And as long as I keep uncovering letters, that means I keep going. But what if I was wrong? Let's say I did this below the D for whatever reason. I decided to do this D. There is a gray dot. That means there is nothing there I failed to find. But because let's say same situation, I did this 4 down on that D, I have to keep going until I've used all my actions. What's the possibility that can come with that? Well, 1, you could uncover something cool, but 2, you could find a penalty marker that is in line with the line of tragedy. The line of tragedy is a mechanic in the game that really tries to force you to be aware that your actions have consequences, and it keeps the game pace moving at a good relative pace. What do I mean by that? Well, as you progress, there are a few situations that will make you scratch off the first box of the line of tragedy. In this case, it's a -1 icon in orange. That is meaning I have to take the biggest available action piece that I have, so in this case my 5, and I have to downgrade it down to a 4. So now I'm no longer able to utilize that 5 piece in uncovering different letters. There are different types of varieties of line of tragedy penalties. It could be a -2 to a piece. It could be lose an action space. It could be something like nothing happens. There's a variety of options that are going to be involving here. And to keep the game pace moving, when you move to your 4th action, you have to scratch off a line of tragedy. That's part of the progression of moving through the story. So that is the game. Once we have uncovered cache, we'd come in here, we'd look for a CA one, somewhere in here I have a CA or somewhere. Somewhere I have it, I'm not sure where I put it. But you would look for cache. Actually, ooh, interesting. I forgot about this. Cache actually ends in a different type of line. If it was a double line, like dwelling, that's where it's going to be in here. But cache actually is a word of power. Word of power is an interesting mechanic in this game because it's a way for you to upgrade your character. So your characters have these words that are words of power, which associate to different types of special abilities each one is capable of using. When you uncover a word of power, each of these letters is going to be used to scratch off a letter, not scratch off, mark off with a pen or whatever. That's why I have a pen here. You mark off whatever here. So for cash, I could do C-A. Do I have any other C's? Doesn't look like it, so it's a wasted letter. H, for example. And then once you fully uncover something, you then get this ability. This game, if you're playing with 2 players, the words of power can be used with both players, but each letter can only be used by 1 player. So, for example, the H was not usable by Servan, but potentially Ira might be able to use it, or any other characters you might have. So you have to kind of think and be like, okay, do you need an H or do I need an H? Which one is more valuable for which one? Which line are you most likely going to finish first, etc. So that's the game. You are going to progress through these lines, hunting and searching for different words, trying to deduce where is it most likely going to be as you fully uncover it. And eventually, I'm just going to flash it, whoop, you're going to look like something like that, where it's going to be fully uncovered. I don't want to spoil anything. I'm not sure what the spoilers are for this. So don't look at that if you're really spoiled. I hope I didn't show it too much. But if you really want to pause it, you can pause it and see what it looked like. But that's kind of the concept, is you're going to be diving through this, searching through it, moving to different sectors of the land, which takes additional time as you uncover more and more story in the Once Upon a Line world. So with that, let's talk about the things that I liked and didn't like about Upon a Line as you go forward with your backing decisions. So first off, I want to talk about the part of Once Upon a Line that was very, very good for me. And that was the dystopian future that is written on these different types of cards. They are very well written in a sense that it's easy for you to read out loud to a group of people. It is short enough and engaging enough that you follow along with the story, but not long enough where you kind of get bored or you get lost in the text. I enjoyed that. They had a very good ability to keep things tight and clean, but also keep the story moving along. The sketching mechanic of the game is quite fun as well. I really enjoyed the deduction aspect where you're trying to decide, okay, well, we have to find colony now, but we have 2 L's. Where's the most likely chance it's going to be on this L or that L? Do we want to take any chances? Is there anything that we can deduce based off what we have? Or are we taking a random shot in the dark? Sometimes you just got to take a shot in the dark. But when you do that, you try to make things as mitigated as possible because you don't want to run into any penalties for the line of tragedy. So maybe I just do a 1 in one side of the L to see if I get lucky with a letter. If I do, then I can make a deduction if it's going colony going up or down or whatever direction it may go. I liked that aspect of the game. It was fun, as well as the scratching. It's like a lottery ticket. Everyone has fun scratching off a lottery ticket. I am also very curious, when you look at the total game here, these aren't actual scratchables, so I can't scratch anything of these. But they showed us a bunch of different potential boards, I guess you could say. There are flavor text on the back. But again, this is all prototype, work in progress. I don't know what any of this is. But I'm very curious how they're going to integrate the story into these games as you progress, because the story is very rich. I am curious as to where it goes and how well they implement it into the system, because this is an extremely unique niche game, and I haven't experienced anything like that before. The line of tragedy aspect was also very, very interesting, because in the beginning I thought to myself, there's zero chance that I'm going to be scratching off line of tragedies. I'm just going to be so good at this, I'm going to blow through it. And in fact, every game, the 2 games we played, the 2 games we played, the line of tragedy got very, very close to being completely scratched off for both me and my friend. It was difficult for us not difficult, but I would say it was compelling, where we were like, well, I can't screw up anymore because I'm too away from dying. I'm not sure what happens at red when you reach the red end, but you get to a point where you're losing all your actions. You're down to 2 actions. You're down to a bunch of 1s and 2s for your available letter searches, and you're like, man, how are we going to do this? How are we going to find what we're looking for? There was one example where my friend was the one getting hit with all the lines, and then the words that we're needing to search, I needed smaller words, or I'd have to use a big, risky line search, and I would have to risk myself hitting some of those penalty markers. So there were some interesting aspects about that, and it did introduce a fun gameplay gimmick. The final part that I want to talk about that I thought was very interesting, I didn't really talk about it at all in terms of the gameplay here. Let me see if I can find one. Here we go. There are puzzles that you encounter. I'm not quite sure how they really relate to the world or the story, other than, hey, you found the letter, now you draw this card and you got to solve a puzzle. I'm not quite sure, as I said, how that relates, or it didn't really feel like it really synced well in terms of the story, but the puzzles were interesting. So I'm going to read you this one, and if you guys know what it is in the comments, I'd love for you to leave a comment to tell me what your guess is. But this one says, I have claws, but I have no feet. With me, you can make a steady beat. To make or break, you must choose boards, blocks, pianos, or even horseshoes. From the smallest tap to a mighty thunder, there's not much that I can't break asunder. So you get that puzzle, and then you are given a gateway challenge card where you have to make a guess. You're going to think of a word. If you are stuck and you're unable to figure it out, you scratch off the guess, but then you have to scratch off a question mark, which is going to be a penalty for your guess. If you make a word, let's say I said it was pianos for whatever reason, and I scratch off the first letter. If the first letter is not a P and it's something else, I have to stop and take a penalty and think about what the answer could be then, knowing what the first letter is now. It's interesting aspect to the game. We had plenty of fun trying to figure them out. Again, in this little sheet, they showed that there's potentially a few different gateway challenges you could encounter. Again, none of this is scratchable. I don't even know if this is real in terms of what will be in the final product. But that aspect was a lot of fun. I really did enjoy it, to the point that I took pictures of the puzzle. I sent it to my wife. My friend sent it to his wife because we wanted to see what their thoughts were, what their guesses were going to be. I thought that was a very fun aspect. So with that, that's everything I liked about this game. Let's talk about the things that I had some troubles with. I've mentioned a few times now that I've enjoyed the world building aspect of Once Upon a Line. I thought it was very, very well done. But the thing I'm having a hard time with, the thing that I'm having the most challenging with, was syncing the gameplay into the storyline. Over and above the fact that the letter or the words that are written in the story are what you're searching for, that to me is not enough glue to sync the gameplay with the story. So that's one of the things I mentioned in one of the things I liked is I want to know, how are you going to sync all of this word search into the theme? Because I'm having a hard time grasping it. I had fun diving into the story and reading the story, but in the meantime, after it's kind of like another game like Tainted Grail, where it's like I gotta play the game so I can figure out what's going on with the story. You know, it's kind of an interesting take in that regard. I'm gonna put an asterisk on this one because it's hard because I played a prologue and a tutorial, but the gameplay seems very on rails. When we reach especially the tutorial, I don't even know if this tutorial is going to be what you guys play. It might be done. I think this was made specifically for previewers to take a look at it. I don't think it's what's going to be detailed in the game, but the tutorial was extremely on rails, really hard to really explore. When you get to the prologue, though, and I know that the prologue is going to be, in fact, this is the prologue sheet. When you reach the prologue, there are things that you can find that are kind of unique or different that might be cards that are not part of the storyline. You could skip those items and still progress the story. So I thought that was cool that we were able to find these things through the word search by doing different types of searches through our words. And it allowed us to find some different items, which we track in the back of the board here where it says inventory. You track what you have. But once you reach the final sheet, once you reach the finale of that scenario, it was the exact same. It was like, yes, I have found some of these things and maybe something happens. And again, I don't know what's going to be further down the line, but it didn't really change where we were going. It was diverging paths all coming back to the same path. So I'm not sure if that means there's going to be different diverging paths, or this single story, if this is a linear story that's not a choose your own adventure, it's just more of a here's a book that you get to scratch off in, I guess. It's hard to really explain that feeling, but I would like to know more. Yes, there are sheets where you have inventory items and maybe it progresses forward and we get to another chapter, and because I found a rock in chapter 2, now that rock is relevant in chapter 4. I don't know, but that might be something that happens, again, without knowing more of the game. But I was nervous because the prologue, while we were finding these things, at the end of the day, it didn't really seem like it mattered. So the final two things I want to talk about, I think is important. Replayability. They mentioned to us that there's going to be a recharge pack or something that you can purchase, that you can basically reset it, kind of like a legacy game where you have a reset pack for a legacy game, so that you can make the game as if it's never been played before if you want to replay it again, or potentially sell it if you wanted to do that as well. Replayability. I don't know if I would replay this game after playing it. I would enjoy the story, I play it through and I enjoy it, but I don't know if I would play through it a second time. There's a few reasons as to why, but I'll give you one right now. This next one will be the last point. But the story doesn't seem compelling enough, and again, I don't know about the divergent paths, if there's enough there, meat on the bone, to really encourage me to want to go and search for the same words I've already searched. I already know where they're at. I know where I'm looking. I don't think it's going to be a challenge to find the same things. You might forget at some points of what some items are, but again, it's also the deduction of where's the most likely place it's going to be on this board with the letters we have. And I think people are smart enough to remember most likely where things were or how they were implemented. So I have a hard time seeing this game as much replayability, but it is nice that the recharge packs give you an option to sell this and move it on if that is something you wanted to do. And with that, I want to talk about the final thing that I really didn't like about this game, and that was the freaking mess it made. I cannot tell you how annoying it was. Even here, I have to clean. I just scratched off 2 words, and I already have a messy board game table I'm going to have to vacuum up when this is done. When we finished playing the 2 scenarios, it was a freaking mess everywhere. Huge piles of crumbs and debris everywhere. I don't know. I was losing my mind. And so it really made me wonder who thought this would be the best path. It's fun to scratch off things, but I don't know if it's the best thing for me, I guess I would say. Is it enough for me to never play this game? No, I play this game, but I'm going to keep my Dyson vacuum by the table so I can vacuum it up every single time. That is something that's a big concern for me, is if people are going to be comfortable with the amount of mess and cleanup that you're going to have to do every time you finish playing this game. So that is going to wrap up my likes and dislikes, and I'm going to give you guys my final thoughts. Once Upon a Line is a fun experience. It is an experience. I think that's the best way I can describe it. It's a game that is using a brand new mechanic to share and show a story. I've never seen a game share a story in the same manner that this one does. But is it one that is capturing and engaging? I am not so sure, and I'm hoping to see what Lucky Duck really provides in the Kickstarter to show me why this game is worth the money for you to back it. If you would like to have more discussion regarding that, please talk to me down in the comment section down below. Remember, check out Into the AM. They are my channel sponsors. I've been so blessed to have them supporting my channel, and it's you guys that go there and shop and using my coupon code BOARDGAME that means that they keep coming back to me and saying, Brian, we're going to keep supporting your channel. So thank you guys. Thank you, Into the AM. Join the Discord if you want to join the community. I'd love to talk to you guys. With that, I will talk to you very soon.